Joining us now for a World Brief and the review of some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Adefemi Akinsanya, our in-house Jabu queen.
Of course,
princess.
Of course.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Ruben. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. That's me. That's me. That is me. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend.
It was an interesting.
It was an interesting one. It was quite an eventful one news-wise, wasn't it?
Yes,
Let me tell you about it. Good morning to you viewers. Let me tell you what's happening around the world. Now, controversy is swirling around US President Donald Trump after he openly threatened military action against Nigeria, first in a post on social media and then in person while on board Air Force One with the members of the press. Just take a listen.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria. And they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Critics say that this move reflects a foreign policy that swings wildly between peacemaking and provocation. Now, just last week here on the World Brief, we discussed how Trump's administration is offering refuge to white South Africans while also attacking Latin American boat targets at sea. Once again, Trump's approach to global crises is drawing sharp scrutiny. We will get into that later, but let's first focus on Nigeria. Now, on Friday, Trump named Nigeria among its list of countries of particular concern, CPC countries, are countries the US thinks have violated religious freedom. Now, other countries on that list included China, Myanmar, North Korea, Russia, and Pakistan. Now, in response, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs released this statement. Mourning the victims of violent crimes and extremism and saluting Nigeria's armed forces for their work thus far. Now, President Tinubu himself responded with a statement saying that Nigeria opposes religious persecution and does not encourage it. He goes on to say our administration is committed to working with the US government to deepen understanding and cooperation in protection of all communities of all faiths. But that wasn't enough, because on Saturday, Trump gave this warning. He went on to say, if Nigerian government continues to allow the killings of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast. Now, reacting to Trump's post on social media, presidential spokesman Bayo Ononuga said that President Tinubu was well ahead of the orchestrated game happening in the United States as he told the new service chiefs what Nigeria expects of them. Now, Mossad Boulos, he is a Lebanese-American businessman who actually made his fortune here in Nigeria before becoming an advisor to Trump. And he says, yes, there's absolutely security issues in Nigeria. People have been killed. But there is no mass targeting of Christians specifically. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Those who know the terrain well know that terrorism has no color and no religion and no tribe. People of all religions and all tribes are dying as a result of terrorist acts. But it's very unfortunate. We even know that Boko Haram and ISIS are killing more Muslims than Christians.
Now, here's the thing. Trump's America's global posture has been defined lately by contradictions. While boasting about brokering peace deals from the Middle East to Asia, Trump has simultaneously waged an aggressive campaign in other regions. Now, his administration targeted Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, ordered the destruction of alleged narcotics boats in the Caribbean, and imposed sanctions across Latin America. But the tone shifts sharply when it comes to South Africa, Trump's administration never threatened military action there. Instead, it granted refuge to white Afrikaners claiming persecution, even as the US drastically cut refugee admissions worldwide. Now, could it be argued that this selective empathy exposes racial and political bias in Trump's foreign policy? So why Nigeria? Well, some thinkers say Nigeria's growing relationship with France, especially in terms of tackling insecurity, could be making the United States uncomfortable. Trump did send weapons to Nigeria during his first term, but relations have been cooling ever since then. Now, Nigeria recently refused to take in third-party and third-country deportees from the United States, and Tinubu himself hasn't traveled to America as president. He hasn't even been to Anga for 2 years in a row. We'll know because we've been there. But there has been this issue of oil. Now, some argue that Nigeria's vast oil reserves and growing strategic importance is driving Trump's aggressive stance. And this is less about protecting Christians and more about asserting influence over one of Africa's most resource-rich nations. Here's what the General Overseer of the Guiding Light Assembly, Pastor Wale Adefarasing, who is a Nigerian Christian, had to say to his congregation.
And I'm trying to understand this sudden love for Christians. Is it because we now have one of the largest refineries in the world and no longer have to ship raw materials abroad and bring the finished products? Or is it because of the 21st century minerals that we now have in our earth that they use to generate nuclear power for electric vehicles? Are those the reasons that our friends are threatening to invade our country to defend and protect Nigerian Christians? Selah.
Debates are already ongoing in the studio. We'll get to my colleagues in a second. But if Washington, here's a question, if Washington can threaten military intervention in Nigeria over religious violence, will Sudan or indeed any other crisis zones face similar ultimatums? Now, there was a veiled threat against Hamas in the early stages of that ceasefire last month. But moving forward, observers say that Trump's rhetoric risks reviving a colonial-style dynamic where African and developing nations are judged through this lens of US moral superiority and military might. Now, Trump's threat against Nigeria may well never materialize, but the message has been sent and it has been received. And it does raise uncomfortable questions over how America defines its friends and foes. Is this about faith, freedom, or fuel? For Nigeria, Africa's largest democracy, the answer could shape the next chapter of US-Africa relations. So as always, I am keen to hear the thoughts of my wonderful learned colleagues. But before then, let's take a look at our papers. As ever, we first begin with the front page of This Day. Now, looking at This Day, it does, of course, lead with the presidency intensifying engagement with Washington over Trump's military threat. The paper reports that the Nigerian government has stepped up diplomatic talks with Washington after, of course, Donald Trump threatened possible military action over the alleged killing of Christians. Now, officials in Abuja are said to be working to calm tensions and safeguard Nigeria's sovereignty. While over in Anambra State, you do have Governor Soludo saying that the issue goes beyond religion and should be addressed through diplomacy and international law. Well, let's take a look at The Punch this morning. The Punch reports that 12 northern governors, judges and traditional rulers may face US sanctions under a proposed bill accusing Nigerian officials of aiding religious persecution through Sharia law and blasphemy laws there too. Now, the bill was sponsored, as we know, by Ted Cruz, a senator over in the United States, and of course, Secretary of State, including, of course, visa bans and asset freezes. The federal government has rejected allegations which insist that Nigeria's constitution guarantees religious freedom and that Sharia applies to Muslims in states that have chosen to adopt it. Well, let's take a look at the Daily Independent this morning, and we'll take a slightly different story because the Daily Independent does lead with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar's call to INEC Chairman Joash Amupitan, urging him really to ensure that this upcoming Anambra governorship election serves as proof that the electoral body has turned a new page. Atiku says the poll is a chance for INEC to restore public confidence and demonstrate true independence. Well, we are looking forward to that. Let's take a look at the front page of the Leadership. Now, the Leadership reports that the family of a young man born in Imo State, his name is Obina Okeadu, he was an engineer. His family is demanding justice following his death in what they describe as a job scam over in Southeast Asia. They said that this job scam was actually a torture camp and a trafficking syndicate in Myanmar and Thailand, and that the 33-year-old from Mbano in Imo State was allegedly lured with promises of course, a job, a prosperity, but unfortunately ended up being trapped there, kept in an underground camp where victims were subjected to forced labor, extortion and torture. His family, of course, are calling for a full investigation into these alleged slave camps across Myanmar and Cambodia and Thailand, and of course calling on the federal government to help them do so. Let's move over to our next paper this morning, and that is the front page of the Inquirer, the Abuja Inquirer today. And it does report that the Federal Capital Territory Administration says that it has met 90% of its obligations as it pertains to resident doctors' demand, with only a few pending issues awaiting full implementation. So some good news, if that, on the horizon. Let's take a look at our next papers this morning, and we are going to take a look at some British papers. We didn't get to it during the World Brief, but unfortunately there was a terrible attack, a stabbing on a train in the United Kingdom. So we've got a series of two different headlines, both from the Mirror and the Daily Express. Now, both of them, if you look at the Mirror, for example, its headline says, "The devil is not going to win." That is a quote from a survivor who was describing the knifeman's chilling grunt during his attack. He said that a series of times. Now, the Express hails a rail worker on LNER as a hero steward who saved many lives while trying to stop the suspect. A 32-year-old man has been arrested after the train made an emergency stop in Huntington. Now, police say that he acted alone and that this attack, while serious, is not being treated as an act of terrorism. My friends, that is your World Brief and your newspapers from Nigeria and around the world, but I am gagging to hear what you think.
Okay, see, Femi, this is my point on this. We can do talking points all we want to call out the hypocrisy of America. In fact, let me add to some of the talking points you put there in calling out the hypocrisy of America. Al-Sharaa, that is America's poster boy today, former proper Al-Qaeda terrorist, the president of Syria today, at some point said there's no place for Druze, Alawites, and Christians in Syria. Allegations of bombing and hurting of Christians. But today, America is making him his poster boy because they feel he's the one that will create stability in Syria. If you want, at the top of my head, I can mention over 10, 15 countries that America, is in the days of Salvador Allende, in the 60s, how America pulled out the government of Salvador Allende in Chile, and they ensured that Augusto Pinochet came in. What happened? Destruction and all of that. See, Nigeria is a sovereign nation.
Yes.
I don't believe in any nation coming in to solve your problem for you. Because for me, once you start that, it also weakens your idea of sovereignty. And there are international conventions against that. But that is not a pretext for killings to be happening for 15 years and we can't solve the problem. What is wrong with Nigerian government solving the problem? Majority of the budget, you funneled it to insecurity. You can't solve the problem. We keep seeing government officials taking pictures with bandits, endorsing them. We keep seeing political correlations with these bandits. We keep seeing, it's not in Zamfara State that two people were fighting, that they said they were looking for people that somebody, where they stored the person in the government was related to a former leader in that state. So we know this association. Why can't we stop this insecurity? We can call Trump's name, we can call Trump all sorts of names. We can insult Trump and everything. The question is, the Trump lie, is there no killings in Nigeria? Yes, Muslims are being killed, Christians are being killed, Shokmonon worshippers are being killed. Ayilala worshippers are being killed. Ifa, Shango, everybody worshippers are being killed. Should the killings be happening? Shouldn't Nigerians' life matter? Shouldn't President Tinubu, that talked about the slaughtering of Christians, that was hounding Jonathan then, that Dr. Abazi confirmed that they even traveled to America to go and report Jonathan then, shouldn't he do the things he criticized Jonathan for? It's so easy to criticize. Now we are telling President Tinubu, do what you criticize Jonathan for. Stop these killings. It's not about rhetoric or anything. I just want killings to stop. See, there are a couple of foundations and NGOs that I work with that do work in IDP camp. Femi, at a point in this country, the first IDP camps I started hearing of was when Liberian refugees used to come here. Today, Nigerians are living in IDP camps in their own country due to this insecurity. That's true. And we are treating this with kid gloves, and we are trying to start this. We are talking government narrative. Stop the killings. That's all we want.
So fix
the
the problem
to ask for.
I think is the biggest response from the Nigerian people. Yes, you might say, I mean, for those who have conspiracy theories around why Trump is now having a particular interest in Nigeria and designating it as a country of particular concern, and even to the extent of threatening military invasion. Well, the truth is that if I use the analysis or the illustration of the fox and the vine, if the hedge is broken, the fox can get to the vine. So they have a platform, an excuse, as it were, to come in. And unfortunately, the excuse is actually factual. It doesn't give America the right on whatever level. We've talked about the UN Charter and what it says about sovereignty of nations. But the truth is that as a people, and I said it before, we should be actually embarrassed that it's taken the Western world to tell us what we know is a problem, and what internally we have discussed a number of times. I think it's quite unfortunate that the reason why action is now being taken is because the West has come to tell us what our problem, what has been a problem for so long, and hopefully, and that's why some people were rejoicing on social media, because they're like, maybe finally a problem, it will now be a solution to the problem that has plagued Nigeria for so many years. But I must emphasize, and I think we set that point on this table today, there's no benefit to Nigeria for any external nation to invade. We should not rejoice about that. We shouldn't talk about us our sovereignty being threatened. The United States, no matter how super a power it is, does not have the right to invade another nation without the nation inviting it and obeying international laws. Let's be factual about this as well. Absolutely. But are there challenges? Absolutely. And I believe that this gives us an opportunity to finally fix this problem. Hopefully, this is what Nigerians can gain from all this as that has happened. We can throw around, theories upon theories, but the crux of the matter is that let us fix a problem whereby Nigerian lives will matter. Finally, on this doctor strike, there have been contentions around that. I say this because we had been raising that alarm about the fact that this is a critical sector in Nigeria, and they are going on strike. The federal government said it released 11 billion naira, but the doctors are contending that until their 19-point demands are met, and also the fact that they say the money that the government said they are owing them is not the actual amount of money. We're talking about COVID allowance here. Look at the people who risked their life during COVID-19 and their allowances have not been paid, 5 years later. So speaking up for them today and asking the government to do right by them. Let's not get to another critical situation where we then begin to run, helter-skelter.
Thank you.
Okay, I've made a point that President Trump saying the now disgraced country, that's how he characterizes Nigeria. How are we a disgraced country? Nigeria is a country of great people. Even if we don't have anything, we have great human resource. We have individuals doing very well, even in the United States, and excelling everywhere. He says he wants to defend our cherished Christians in Nigeria. He has become the defender of the faith, along with Congressman Moore and Cole, and also Senator Ted Cruz. Now, the point that we need to make is that all lives in Nigeria matter. People have cited examples of how, Christians have been targeted and all of that. But if you ask Governor Zulum of Borno State, he will tell you that most of the people who have suffered from Boko Haram, or those President Trump referred to as Islamists, are Muslims. So the point should be that all lives in Nigeria matter. And the attempt to push Nigeria into a north-south divide, into a religious war, Even if Trump brings his drones and all of that and carries out any operation in any part of Nigeria, it is we, the people of Nigeria, that will suffer. Long after that operation must have stopped. And I repeat the point that Trump is being hypocritical. What is he doing about the Christians in Kuwait? And he's not doing enough. What is he doing about the Christians in Palestine and in the strip of Gaza? Instead, he's supporting Israel to attack them. Now, people have made the point about, resource, war, and all of that. And I say, no, that argument is a bit tenuous. America is not taking more fuel from Nigeria. America is not taking our gas from Nigeria LNG. Okay, maybe we have lithium and all of that. But, I think that argument is a cover-up. What we should insist upon is the sovereignty of Nigeria. And I think, and I repeat the point, that this is the time when we need adults in the room. I think one professor, was it Professor Bolaji Akinyemi, who warned President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not to go and confront Donald Trump, as if he knew that we will get to this point. And that's why I say we need adults in the room. There shouldn't be all these small boys, around the place. No, the adults are there. We have President Obasanjo. We have President Jonathan, who once suffered in the hands of the Americans. We have General Babangida. We have Ambassador Anyauku. We have the younger generation, people like Ambassador Jokeshi. We have this human resource. President Tinubu should call them immediately. And then they put their heads together. How do we address this issue? It's not something that some small boys will go and be getting emotional and be talking out of tone about subjects that they do not understand. And I think that this is the moment. I repeat the point, that all of us have to come together to defend not the administration, but to defend Nigeria. This time does not call for partisanship. It's not about partisanship. It's about what we think of our country, because we cannot afford a religious war in this country. And the religious leaders should be called also to get involved. The Sultan of Sokoto, who is the leader of the Muslim faithful, Cardinal Francis Cardinal Onayeka is there, Bishop Matthew Kuka, Pastor, okay. Bishop Oyedepo. All these people can come together. All these religious leaders, they should come together and support the government and say, yes, we are Christian leaders. The objective in Nigeria is religious harmony. Donald Trump cannot be more Nigerian than Nigerians themselves. And this complex and this contradictory approach from the United States has to be, addressed at the level of engagement. And secondly, is that, well, this is a wake-up call, I've said it before, for government to realize that this problem of insecurity has to be solved. Not too long ago, they said 42 people have been detained for trying to plot a coup.
Well, that's my
so
time.
Those fifth columnists in this country also have to be identified.
Absolutely, Dr. Abati.
Because some people are working against Nigeria.
All right.
And I do not think that that should be encouraged. As for the train accident in the UK, that's very unfortunate.
All right, Dr.
The gentleman just, knifing people.
Yes.
And the reason of the train steward and also of the driver of the train.
Dr. Abati, all right. Thank you so much, Dr. Abati. Adefemi, thank you very much. Always great to have you on the show.